creators, not content. You're all, of course, inundated with, I've got to be creating more content. You got to put all this content into all these channels, sometimes unnecessarily. But I want you to think a little bit different about all that content you're creating and think about it as you are a creator resource department or an agency for internal creators. Let me give you an example of how this looks. So first of all, who are the internal subject matter experts? You know a lot of them already. Some of them you don't know. You want to get to know these people. And then you want to say, okay, I'm going to figure out who these are, who these human beings are, and we're going to put them on one channel. Not all over the board, not just creating blogs for your newsletter or podcast examples. You want to say, get them to own one channel. Is it a podcast? Is it a video series? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Is your blog? Whatever the case is. And then be the agency for them. Help set them up to be successful. How they need so that they can create consistent, valuable content over a long period of time. And then totally integrate that with your content plan. Salesforce, I'm cutting in and out here, so I don't know if I need a handheld mic, and so I'm happy to get one if you need me to do that. Matthew Sweezy was all in on Web3 when Web3 was cool a couple of years ago, and Salesforce was all in on Web3 because this was going to be the next big thing. And Salesforce said, well, instead of creating a whole different content group within our content marketing program, we're saying we're just going to have Matthew be our internal expert. We're going to have Matthew write the book. We're going to have Matthew create the blogs. We're going to have Matthew do the interview series. Thank you. No, you got it. All right, cool, good. Okay, and we're going to put everything into Matthew and then integrate Matthew in everything we're doing instead of just being part of our content program. This was working really well until Salesforce fired him and stopped their entire Web3 effort, which is okay, but the example works. If they would have kept going with it, if they believed in that as a topic, it would have really worked well. If you're familiar with Indium Corporation, Indium manufactures industrial soldering equipment, very, very sexy industry. They started this out as a group blog, which was fine when they started it 10 years ago, and it's worked really, really well for them. But as they've gone on, they figured out, hey, we should just put more resources to one or two of our experts that are really our rock stars in our organization. So they talked to Dr. Ron Lansky. He's really selling it as a rock star. They put more and more resources into him, helped him out with his social media presence. He's focusing more on being sort of the persona behind this blog instead of it just being Indian blog, which is what a lot of us do, right? It's the blog from your company. It's the newsletter from your company. It's your company's podcast. But you know you're not going to get as much trust if you focus on just your brand and not the individual. So this is what I want you to start thinking about, and I think this is what's going to happen over the next few years. You have your main brand, and that's probably the least effective way to send out your content, coming from your B2B brand. Then you could say, okay, well, we have a content brand, and we'll talk about what those are in a second. But then you have your person. That's the thing that's going to get most open, most connected, most shared, the person. And you know that. I mean, look at your email. What are you going more likely to open? Something from an individual. So if you look at a couple of examples, so this is from a great creator, focuses on the creator economy industry, Jay Klaus. So Jay Klaus is the individual, and Creator Science is the content brand. That's the name of the newsletter that comes out. Then you have Dan Runcie, has a great newsletter called Trapital. So you said that's the content brand coming from the individual. And so here's where all three of them come in. So Sarah Mitchell is the rock star creator, The Right Fit is the content brand, and Typeset is the company. Most of us are sending it from the company, then you're sending it from the content brand, then you might send it from the individual. So we've got to change our thinking and start saying, how do we set this up for the individual success? You might be thinking, hey, is there a risk behind that? Absolutely there is. They might go get another job. But the advantages of this are way outweighs. We're creating so much content that nobody's engaging with at all. If you can switch over to this model, you'll get a lot more traction as you go. And of course, we know Ann does this as well. So it's coming from Ann Handley. Total Anarchy is the content brand. And I know this is her personal newsletter, but really she's doing this in a lot of ways for MarketingProfs. So it works really well that way. So this is how it plays out. You have your B2B creator. That's the rock star. That's that internal expert in your organization. Set them up on one platform. Don't give them two. Don't give them 3, just give them one thing to do really, really well. It's research, it's a podcast, it's a newsletter. Then that will give them speaking opportunities, and you see a lot of that here. A lot of people here work for their company, but they become really well known in their industry because of this has happened. You get interviews, you set them, okay, well, we need to help them with their book, you package with your social, you do a newsletter, and then you get the best possible leads on the planet. Because those people are really engaged, they want to hear what that creator has to say, and oh, by the way, it's part of your content marketing plan. If you see what New York Times is doing, this page all used to be just the little infographic widgets up there. It was just, nope, and you see, every time I check it, there's more people. They have a person behind every content effort they're doing. We do that horribly in B2B. It's always our brand or our content brand. We have to make the switch like every other reasonable company out there and focus on who are these individuals that can connect one-on-one with our audience as we go. Are you still with me? Yes. Thank you. Third one, co-create with your customers. At Content Marketing Institute, we really felt at the time, this is back in 2012, that we really needed a documentary about content marketing. Nobody had really gone through the history in an hour, 15 minutes or whatever, and we said, we really need to make this happen. We couldn't do it by ourselves. We went out to one of our best customers at the time, Bright Cove, and they put this on together with us, and over the last few years, we've had over 1 million people that have watched this thing, and I really believe, anybody have seen this documentary, by the way? Thank you very much. I think it's made a real difference in the industry and really led a lot of the goals that we've been trying to do long term. With the tilt now, we really feel like every year we've got to get some benchmark research on the creator economy, on the content entrepreneur. We went to our best customer, Lulu, and said, hey, can you make this happen? We put out a really good piece of research this year, and we'll do it again next year. I think a lot of times when you think about these big projects, we think we have to do it themselves, and you can't get help from your absolute best customers. So make a list. Who are your best customers right now? However subjective, look at that and say, how can I get them involved in my content? And maybe they'll help financially support that as well and get this thing paid for. So it could be a weekly podcast Q&A with a customer or prospect. It could be a video series with your largest 5 customers. It could be a blog written by your customers. It could be an event featuring key customers. The goal of this whole thing is, how do you create better B2B customers? The number one way, get them involved in the content you're creating. That creates the stickiest customer possible. So whatever you're doing right now, how do we get your customers involved? And by the way, for the pleasure, they might actually pay you.